On this week's episode, we are talking about universal basic idiots, various fitness questions, and
much more.
much more. Welcome to episode 26 of the No Rep podcast. I am your host, Evan Middleton, and I don't know how else to do that, apparently. And I'm with Danny and Jordan. How are we, boys?
Good, very good. We had a conversation.
Very good, very nice.
Very good, very nice. We had a conversation before this conversation, and we were getting quite into it about.
We actually wasted a lot of good content for the podcast.
Good content time. We were talking a lot about universal basic income and stuff like that, and we were sharing our thoughts. Paul was educating us dumbwits on what actually happens in the real world.
Yeah, Paul should be our leader.
As dumb men, all we do is just tell people to do burpees and eat less. So we don't know much about much, but I know something.
What you know?
And that is that the human body
You want some?
gives out a lot of liquid when you think about it. Like we secrete a lot of ointments and liquids. Think about it for a second. How much stuff comes out your body? Like sweat.
And then what you think about is how much stuff goes in.
Sweat, pee, jizz, oils, like acid when you're sick. What else? Saliva.
Blood.
Just something that you really want to talk about.
I'm just saying, like, see when you think about it, we're quite.
Guys, just everybody listening right now, we're as confused as you where he's
So
gone with this. Just to let you know, this
See when you
is the
squeeze a
plan.
spot, the stuff that comes out, like we give out a lot of stuff, don't we?
Yeah.
Much like the value we give in this podcast.
Was it weird to segue to something?
Anyway, so
Where's they going with this?
universal basic income. So we were talking about that, and I found a lot of the points that we were talking about quite interesting, because I was under the impression and under the initial thought that many others might be as well, that it's silly, that it's a silly idea, and that people will just sit around and do nothing.
What the point? Universal basic income, for anyone that doesn't know, is that everyone gets paid essentially a salary. How much we don't know. Let's say £1,000, and then obviously out with that, you can then still work and all the rest of it and earn more. And Paul would say about, like, let's say like 50 grand, for example. When you earn over that, obviously with your work you're doing plus the basic universal basic income, you'd obviously get taxed and stuff like that on top of that, just like normal. Sorry, Jordan.
No, that was it. And I just thought that some of the points that we're talking about were quite interesting. I'd quite like to rehash some of them. My initial reservations of it were that I was like, I just didn't see how it would work, because say if you got things that are like necessities, healthcare, emergency services, yada yada yada, and you know there's part-time nurses that earn just around about £1,000. There's teaching assistants that earn around about £1,000 a month after tax and things like that. Like, it's not, there's a lot of people out there that work very, very hard for that amount of money. So if you're just given that amount of money and you're able to sustain your own lifestyle, who's going to do a lot of these fundamental things right off the bat? That was one of the things that I was immediately thinking of. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because these are some of the jobs, and again, that a lot of these jobs, I believe that teachers assistants, nurses should be paid fucking double what they're making right now, because of the amount of work that goes into it, just from people who I know who are teachers, people who I know are nurses, the amount of shit that's involved in it. And I'm like, you're doing that for that?
I train a lot of nurses.
Tell me about that.
And so basically, all I was saying there was like, I train a lot of nurses, and every single one of them is miserable. Right? They are massively overworked and underpaid, and I think that they aren't compensated for the amount of work and stuff that they actually do. Do you know what I mean? Would you agree?
Yeah,
I would
100%.
agree. Wholeheartedly, I would agree.
But see, with the universal basic income, the way I look at it is like the world is built by creatives, right? So all the things that we see, all the architecture we see, all the thoughts and theories, electricity, you name it, that's creatives that got us to that point, right? Now, obviously, we're in a position now where we're in a very, like, you need to have money to survive. Not just like a wee bit of money will get you by. You need to have money to survive now, right? So what that then does is it then pushes away people that could have been the most creative people. There's people out there that know, right, that could have ideas and potentially lead to creating complete cures for cancer, obviously the debate is there a cure for cancer? We could get into right? But the people that could literally have ideas that could completely revolutionise how the full world works. But these people are completely suppressed in their mind because they're so worried about earning money, living, surviving, eating, the basic instincts and things that we care about, security and being fed, right? When you have no money, they two things are at risk. So people's creative minds aren't going to be anywhere near where they need to be flourishing. Exactly. So for me, universal basic income allows creatives in the world to like A, appear, and B, the creatives that are already there to have more freedom to do that.
Well, that's a good point, and that's also a reason why I think that it potentially might not happen. Now, I think, Paul, you were saying that you really think that it's going to be happening. It's going to be happening soon. Aye. So Paul's thinking it's super inevitable. You're almost in a similar boat as well. The reason why I don't think, or I don't see, I think from what you guys are saying, I think it would be a great thing to potentially come into play now. I didn't initially. I do now. I've changed my mind. But the reason why I think it won't happen is because I feel like society almost wants to keep people plugged into the matrix.
Yeah.
They want to like keep people turning up to their jobs they don't want, so that their creative brains are shut off. So they just keep the cogs turning, keep the money going into the pockets of those who fucking are greedy enough to have it. The Sunaks, the fucking the Tories, the rest, all
The
that
lizard
sort of thing.
people.
The lizard people, the people that have two sets of eyelids, right? Those people. And I feel like the reason why it won't happen is because of that, because they want to keep the cog turning. They want to keep the people digging the coal. They want to keep the people hustling away at their fucking underpaid and overworked jobs.
I feel that we're heading towards something that people that are people that are money orientated like them, suit and tie wankers, right, who genuinely don't have anything else to give except like take money, basically. They people are going to get us to a point where the world is going to be forced to have more creatives and more people with good brains and engineers and all the rest of it, because I feel like the world has gone to a place through excess food consumption, through potential climate change and all the rest of it, that we won't be able to just get away with how things are now, and we'll need more engineers, we'll need more people that have got a brain in them, not just about making money but actually being creative and having new ideas to get us out of bad situations. I believe it will actually be, as Paul says, inevitable that it will need to happen. It won't be that it will need to happen, I think.
See, when you think about it, right, see if you were to put pause on all of the world's technological advancements. Right, so I heard this on a Rogan podcast. It's like cars are fast enough, music sounds good enough, planes go fast enough, like boats, technology, everything that we see and have in our hands, phones. If they never made anything else above what we have right now, we'd probably be all right.
I think we'd be pretty sound.
I think we would be sound.
It's better than like a stick and fire.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Like, how much better is it going to get? And where's that going to lead to human civilization from there? Like, so what we're going to do, we're just going to end up turning into aliens and our brains will end up fucking 3 times the size, and we have like this wee slim body because we don't have to do anything because we've developed all these technological advancements that do it for us.
Do you know what's
Maybe
technological
testosterone's lowering. Maybe everyone has no genitalia eventually.
That's what they said.
Like Action Man.
That's what they said on that Rogan podcast. Is like we're just gonna fucking turn into like what we think aliens look like, with giant brains, no genitals, and they just fucking
low
make
muscle
new
mass,
babies
low
because there's no need to have fucking sex anymore because you just make the baby
You
instead.
just rub your nubbins together and
But,
there's an egg. Wow.
It's like no, you used to get the wee egg thing that you would grow an alien with at school. Remember that, the wee gem?
That doesn't mean what you think it does.
What did they do?
Do that again?
Would you like that? You rub your legs together.
Nah, mate,
That's something different.
that's
bro.
something
People
different,
do
bro.
that.
People do that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll show you. I'll show you.
Aye, I was thinking like 2 action men together.
Aye,
like,
that's-
do you know?
Is that how you,
woman.
is that the way you're
Now I understand how I feel like it. Is it?
Oh Jesus!
That's hilarious.
I don't know if
Anyway,
I don't know if he caught that in camera there, but we'll just leave that underneath the camera. Right?
Aye, but I was thinking about as our aliens, like how would the 2 action men put their nubbins together?
But why would
science,
they,
bro? They wouldn't actually.
they wouldn't have to put their nubbins together
test tube
anyway?
babies,
Because
basically.
there would be no need for genitalia anymore because they'd be able to push. Because they'd be able to push a button that would just
Aye.
manifest the pleasures that they want at any given moment,
Yep.
right? So you wouldn't even need to fucking spend all that time doing it. You just push a button
Nubbins.
and it's done. In order to create babies, you just do the thing like where you put them in like a wee egg. Remember the thing you got in school? Leave it a couple
I
of
was
days.
at Calder Glen Zoo yesterday. There's a zoo in East Kilbride.
There is.
I know.
Which is mad.
East Kilbride is a zoo.
It's the only zoo in Glasgow with a tiger.
It's not a tiger.
The fuck up, man.
Carry on.
And they had the wee alien pods. And I remember you used to put them in
Yep.
the and you used to have a baby.
Yep.
Does a baby actually ever come out of them?
No.
though? Never.
Yeah,
Does it?
if you do it right.
No, definitely not.
Do it right. You've been doing it wrong this whole time. Listen, I have a baby. I'll tell you how it's done.
Is that, did you and Katie make it in a wee
We
pod?
put it. Yeah,
Put your nubbins together.
we put our nubbins together. That was it. That was all she wrote. So anyway, what were we actually meant to be talking about today?
Questions.
Questions.
That what was it? Was it stupid questions? That
the
people,
stupidest.
the stupidest questions that people ask their coaches or PTs.
And you made a really good point outside, Evan, which I'll steal and share to the listeners because it'll make me sound smarter than what I actually am. But no question is a stupid question.
That's absolutely fucking correct.
Yeah, because everybody's like our level of understanding of health, fitness, all that sort of thing, obviously should for the most part outweigh any of our clients, because ultimately that's our jobs, is to know more than what they do and to have the answers to the questions that they have. So something that might seem ridiculously simple to us might not necessarily be simple to a potential client or someone that's just starting out in their gym journey.
Yeah.
So let's address some of the basics. Let's rattle through them.
Yeah. You could just go on to that because folk always, like, not always, but maybe they'll WhatsApp me or something and go, and this might be a stupid question, right? But it's not. It's all cool. So the first one, that should go to the first one on the list. I'll do the first one on the list.
Aye, and let's underline that so that people understand that we're not actually saying that these are stupid questions. It's just to make it a little bit more, I don't know.
A little bit of je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, je ne sais, a certain,
Va-va-voom.
je ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I still do cardio and lift? Jordan Green.
Yes.
Why?
If you want to do it, then go do it. If your goals align with, if you want to get fitter and stronger, then you're going to have to lift and do fitness. So you're going to have to do it in some capacity. So whether you're at the start, middle, end, wherever you kind of fall in the scale of your experience, the degree in which you'll do it will vary. But ultimately, my belief in the way that I train people was that you should always be doing some of them, and you should be doing strength and some level of conditioning, kind of in unison or in parallel with each
And
other.
obviously, you can change if you've got whatever coming up. You want to focus on strength for a while, do more of that. If you've got a half marathon coming up,
The thing is that it doesn't even need to be as lofty as that. I just like to, like, we've spoke about this a lot, Evan, you always mention this as well, and that success leaves clues.
Yes.
And unless your aspirations are to be like an IFBB pro bodybuilder, then just look at people who are generally fit and lift a little bit. So if you look at any average CrossFitter, right? You look at any of them with minimal clothes, it won't be hard. They don't wear any anyway, right? They generally look like they work out. Do you know what I mean? And what do? A lot of fitness and a lot of lifting. So like success leaves clues at the end of the day. And just because they've done a lot of fitness and a lot of lifting doesn't mean that they've lost any gains whatsoever.
You see, the thing is, I've lifted weights for the longest time, 14 years, right? Done little bits of cardio, but for 80% of that time, it's just been weights, cardio patch, because mate, if you want to get big, you can't do cardio and lift weights at the same time, right?
Yep.
So you can, by the way, as Jordan just said. But until I started CrossFit,
Did you do CrossFit?
right? Until I started,
You don't.
only weekends. Until I started, I wasn't healthy. Didn't feel healthy. I thought I was healthy, right? And because obviously I took care of myself and all the rest of it, looked healthy. But like my resting heart rate sometimes was ridiculous. Going on a walk and just walking at a decent
That
pace.
could just be
like
age-related, though.
117. No, listen, I've got something I'm going with. Also true. But 100, no, age is just a number. Right, so 117, 120. Now it's like 90. And if I'm walking really fast and get a good walk in. So I've potentially, and this is like, it was always run about the same every time I checked it when I was going a decent walk, really like quite a decent pace, right? So I've potentially dropped like 20 beats a minute out of that zone, right? Just to show you. So people maybe think, oh, it's all to do with muscle or fitness, health as well, man. And I think a lot of the time that you might not think you want to be too healthy right now, but I can assure you, the older you get, you're going to wish you took more care of your health. So, aye, fitness and weights.
Yeah. No, I think just one wee thing in that, you don't want to have the chassis of a Ferrari, but the engine of a Punto. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So think about it that way. See,
I'm all about a good chassis.
see,
Well,
no
my
matter what way you kind of break it down, see if you're training, you're essentially trying to become a more efficient, or unless you have a very specific goal, like bodybuilding, for example, you're trying to just become a more efficient version of yourself. There's so many benefits that having an efficient aerobic system and stuff will translate and transcend into other parts of your actual fitness journey.
You should never let fitness be the limiting factor on anything that you do in your life. So if you get to the age of 40, 50 and your kids are starting to play sports and stuff like that, and you can't even kick a ball or throw a ball to your son, like, because you're fucking no fit enough to do it, like, or chase him about the park, I think that's from like a man standpoint and like a father standpoint, from a masculine standpoint and from like a father standpoint, I couldn't think of anything more embarrassing than not being able to like kick a ball with your son and your daughter.
And the potential experiences you're making that kid lose out on because of that as well.
Exactly. Like, imagine not being able to go swimming.
Do you know, obviously you're both very aware that my mum had a wee health scare recently.
You say we.
It was a massive health scare recently, right? And she is part of the thing when she was in hospital, they made her do a treadmill test.
Is that right?
Yeah. So she wasn't running, she was walking.
Yeah.
Right? And she couldn't do it. Right? Don't get me wrong, my mum didn't look massively obese or anything. She just looked like a mum, like any 60-year-old, a wee maw, right? But it made her so upset, right, that she physically couldn't walk at a slight pace on a treadmill, right? It gave her the realization, like, fuck. Like,
and it's unfortunate it comes to that sometimes, that's when people start taking action.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to the next question because it's related to this one. Cardio or weights first? Because it's just kind of same thing.
Kind of the same thing.
We don't need to spend as much time in this. Cardio,
yeah,
let's
let's go through it, and let's try not answer any of these with it depends, because that's always going to be the answer, right?
We are Switzerland.
Yeah, it's always going to be the answer. It depends. It doesn't matter. Next question.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
I think it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter.
Unless
it depends.
Unless you're maybe going to go for a PB or something, right? You don't want to be fatigued as shit before you do that.
Yep. Right. The thing is, right? Let's flesh this out. Let's flesh this out. Example, right? Prime example. This morning, right? Cardio. I went to run 7k tonight. I'm going to back squat up to like 85% of my 1RM. I'm going quite heavy. Lots of sets, lots of reps. I did cardio first, and then I'm doing weights. Now, some people can do it in the same session, yada, 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 whatever.
But there's a big difference because you separated them compared to just
whatever you want to prioritise, you do first. That's probably the best answer to that
Next question.
Next question.
Right, so a very kind of loose one here. I've got down, CrossFit is stupid injuries, question mark. So I think you can kind of get what that question is.
Yes. No. You could remove that word CrossFit and then replace it with gym, sport, Zumba, spin, swimming, hiking, anything comes with a small inherent risk. But I'm under the impression of any CrossFit gym that I've been to, it's coach led. So if you're exercising under the eye of a coach who has the slightest idea of what they're doing, they don't even need to be fucking that good. If they have the slightest idea of what they're doing, you're probably going to be in a good place.
I've trained in boxing gyms, MMA gyms, jiu-jitsu, have been a coach myself for the longest time, have taken classes, have taken part in classes. I've never seen such like high level of safety first than I have in a CrossFit gym. Like it's night and day different for any other sport I've been in, any other gym I've been in Glasgow. It is so apparent that is the first thing that every coach cares about. Isn't it?
Mate, I went, so like my client Andy raised one of the most amazing points that I was just like, woof, I've never genuinely thought about that. And like, CrossFit gets a bad rap off a lot of people, and I like to play up to it, and I like to kind of join in as well. Do you know what I mean? You can't beat them, join them, all that sort of shit.
Because it is a cult. But
it is a cult, exactly. And I am the leader. So like, I like to play up to it because it's at the end of the day, you're not going to change everybody's mind. Like, I'm not going to change Deck's mind on fucking kipping pull-ups because he thinks they're ridiculous. And I'm like, that's fine. You think that. Cool. I'm going to keep doing them. But Andy raised a good point where he says that, like, because I went to a Pure Gym, the one in Shawlands, fucking worst gym on planet Earth.
It's terrible.
It's fucking horrible. Most Pure Gyms are.
No
Sorry,
shout out.
Pure Gym, Pure Gym descendants, but they're fucking horrible gyms. And I walked in and like there's all sorts of shit happening everywhere. Like, it's hard to actually pinpoint someone who's doing something right. That was more of a task for me to do that at 4 o'clock on a fucking Wednesday afternoon than it was to just walk into a gym and you see more people actually exercising proficiently, intensely enough. Again, intensity is relative, and actually moving like not like a bag of shit. Like it was actually harder for me to do that. And I think that you walk into most CrossFit gyms and yeah, you might see movements that aren't typically well known or well versed or well used in the kind of whole space, like kipping pull-ups or anything on your hands. But for the most part, people tend to move a lot better in CrossFit gyms. In fact, no, 100% of the time. I'm going to say 100% of the time that people move better inside CrossFit gyms.
See, people don't realise as well.
Than commercial gyms.
Well, people don't realise as well, and I know for a fact I was ignorant to this years ago. So I used to think to myself, right, but what's the point in kipping pull-ups? What's the point in butterfly pull-ups? What's the point in them flinging that about and doing this and doing that quick and just doing weights fast?
All the combinations of
what's the point, right? And then you realise, oh, wait a minute, these people are actually training strict. So there's strict pull-ups getting done, there's this getting done, but it's a sport. It's an event. So they need to get that done in a certain amount of time. That's why you're seeing the most efficient way of doing the chest to the bar.
It's a different thing.
Do you know what I mean?
That's another thing. It's a different thing.
It's a sport as well. That's what people need to remember.
Well, not necessarily. So there's two different avenues to CrossFit. There's a health side and there's a sports side, which can be a whole other topic. But we'll move on.
You're right.
CrossFit's the best thing on earth. Let's move on.
I've not had my say on it, but we'll just move on. Right?
No, it's only joking.
So you two, is this your podcast? You guys
so from an outsider's point of
this
view,
isn't
how
the
is it?
Sourdough Social Club. Right?
It can be.
Right, let's go. What was your point?
Oh, you just want my... Okay, right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll lay it down for y'all.
What did you say?
I'll lay it down for y'all.
Sorry.
And, anyway... Right,
on the subject,
CrossFit is a cult. It's not a sport. There's no ball, right? Everyone gets injured. Right, next question. But no. Honestly, I am not a fan of CrossFit. I do appreciate lots of parts of CrossFit, right? I think, like anything, there'll be a lot of people doing it fucking terribly, right?
Oh, yeah.
And because of the complexity of the exercises, the injury rate will undoubtedly be higher.
But it's very scaled. It's very scaled, mate.
No. But I don't think that's incorrect at all, because
I think you should do it first.
Here, listen to me. I'm not saying everybody, right? What I'm saying is a very logical point that if something is more complex, there's more chance of it going wrong, right? Correct or incorrect? Correct or incorrect? Yes or no?
Correct.
I know exactly. So it makes perfect sense.
No,
I am not saying here.
Let
Obviously, you can scale it up or scale it down, but in a learning process with something, if there is a complexity with it, there is more chance of it going wrong. So what I didn't say the injury rates are definitely higher. I said they undoubtedly they probably are higher. How higher, right? I didn't say they're 1,000,000% higher. I also didn't say they're a tiny bit higher. I'm saying likely that is the case because of the complexity of some of the things. That's common sense.
No, I agree with what you're saying, absolutely. But if you take into account as well, what is potentially more dangerous, someone doing a simple movement under no guidance or someone doing a relatively more complex movement under guidance?
No, I think there's probably a fine line between it, because regardless of it, you could I actually, it's a hill that I'll die on. I'm not changing my opinion on that as thing, but I think, and what I was going to go on to say is, from knowing you guys, from being kind of in that space, there's a lot more care with like prehab, rehab, like some of the training, some of the coaching from the CrossFit guys is second to none. It's absolutely top tier stuff. I think it is really, really good. And the thing is as well, if you can take people from not doing any Olympic lifting to Olympic lifting, it's class. It is class to see. It is a bit of a cult though, and I think what I don't like is I don't like when people like see when something's their personality.
Yeah.
Bodybuilders as well.
Yeah.
Get girls that do bikini competitions. That is your personality.
Yeah.
And it kind of bores me.
I think it's because it's newer though, because nobody would say that about people with rugby, football, or the rest of it, and that becomes like a big part of their thing. But it's like you're not allowed to like.
Oh wait, no. Well, we've did we not speak about this on Friday? Actually, it's like it doesn't actually matter what you do. So, what was the thing that we seen? Was it a vegan we seen, or something like that? Or was it
a wild vegan?
No, what was it? It was like a vegan restaurant. No, coffee. You said it was a coffee, and then you were like that. There were two people that served us the coffee in that coffee shop, and you were like, you can just tell they work in a coffee shop just with the way they dress.
No. What I said was it right? Because when you walked in, the guy looked you up and down like.
Aye.
these idiots aren't going to order the Arabica roast or whatever it is. Fucking, do you know what I mean?
That coffee was laced.
It was mad.
Laced.
But basically, what I said was, how come you need to look like that to work in a coffee shop? Which is obviously
Exactly.
a sweeping generalisation.
No,
Right.
this is true, but it's also the same way as that if you see someone who does CrossFit, they're wearing the nanos or the
No, they're not wearing
the
anything.
Metcons, or they're not wearing anything. Or
Most of the
they're-
time.
So everybody assigns them. So it's, but the thing is, it doesn't just happen within CrossFit. CrossFit is a cult. It is a. The only way you know, like, no, you don't need to ask someone if they do CrossFit or not, because they'll tell you.
Oh,
They'll tell you.
I know.
I do it, right? Do you know what I mean? That's what they'll say. Or they won't shut up about the WOD that they've done, or the fucking how hard it was and how it was the hardest thing on planet Earth.
we're back from that.
I know.
CrossFit.
Yeah, exactly. So you're right in saying that, and you're right. I think that we all are right to a certain degree, and again, it's not going to be a binary thing. Spent too long on it doesn't deserve the time of day.
It
this
does.
much.
We gave it a lot of time. That
We
didn't
did. Can I tone without putting on muscle?
Oh yeah, tone all day, baby.
Well, let's break down what toning is.
What is
You
it?
gonna break it down, Danny?
I mean, would you like me to?
Break it down.
So you're just looking at me with smiley faces.
Yeah, I don't know what
Spin
toning
that
is.
shit, DJ.
Well, toning muscle is when you. Sorry, pardon me. Toning is when you increase muscle mass.
Is it?
Yeah. And then lose body fat.
Right, okay.
So
Do you know-
technically, yes, you can't tone without gaining muscle.
What I want to know is where the tone thing started. It must have been like in the 80s.
To
or-
Well, if you
just
think about-
generalize.
So if you think about this, right, for example, so if I was to sell you something, it's like, here's a sustainable training plan that will help you build muscle and lose fat. You're kind of like, I mean, yeah, kind of sounds all right. But if I went, see in 24 hours, if I can have you toned, the tone in 24, you'll be like, whoa,
hard on.
let me buy that.
Yeah.
It's
Take
like,
my
it's-
money.
It's marketing. I think it's just
If,
about
do you know,
marketing.
it probably did stem from marketing. And, and the thing, I suppose, what we're kind of saying is, don't be ridiculous. Of course, you can't do that. No, kidding.
Also, can you turn muscle into fat? Is that how?
Or is muscle heavier than fat?
Aye. The amount of things.
A kilo of feathers.
Aye.
A kilo of
It's,
steel or a kilo of feathers?
What's heavier?
What's heavier? The steel. Anyway.
it's
I'll
mad.
go
But
on
no,
that
the thing is, if you know, see, everyone's fitness problems, right, can be fixed by putting on muscle, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's a cardio related problem. But
Oof.
But-
Or lifting weights.
yeah.
Resistance training.
Do you know what I mean? So generally, see, when somebody
Yeah.
approaches your client approaches, this is my problem, this is my problem, this is my problem, this is my problem.
Yeah.
See, when you're kind of reading that, you're kind of like, you need to put on some muscle.
Yeah.
Generally, right? Not every situation, of course, but most of the
Most.
time, what you actually need to do is being a surplus bro.
Yeah,
And,
it's going to fall under that umbrella of somehow, like either by putting on muscle, getting stronger, or resistance training is probably going to help. I don't see how it can't help everyone.
Yeah,
In fact, it literally will.
Exactly.
Even your gran.
exactly. So I think, why would someone not benefit from being more robust, resilient, having stronger tendons, having stronger ligaments,
I'm being jacked as fuck.
being
bro.
jacked to shit?
Like,
Right. Next
what's
question.
not to have, yeah.
Sports specific training question mark.
It's bullshit.
How so?
It's bullshit in that. So I was under the impression years ago that that was my dream, was to train sports specific athletes, to train fucking
was that guy,
professional
so-
rugby players, to train this, that, and you get to do all this complex sort of shit. And it's like, I seen a thing by the Australian strength coach who I've learned a lot just from his Instagram, and also taking some ridiculous memes as well, because he's also quite funny. But he shared so much knowledge, and he shared something on this recently that I've shared the same alignment of thinking, is that, like, I've trained professional fighters, right? Actual people who fight for a living, and I'm not teaching them how to punch better, or teaching them how to kick harder, or teaching them how to perform an armbar better.
You got to win the cables going like that.
Yeah, exactly. I've not got them doing like fucking landmine punches and fucking like kicking the rig. This will toughen up your shins, bro. Like, I'm not doing any of that, because they have a coach that's going to help them with that. But if I can take that same athlete who competes in a 155-pound weight division and make that athlete stronger, more robust, more resilient, the things that you said, then fundamentally they're going to be better at their sport. So it's sport specific in a way, but they're not doing any fucking stupid cable punchy exercises.
On a Bosu ball,
Exactly.
with a golf club.
If I get somebody, right, if I get an athlete that competes in the 155 pound weight division, but they're carrying a little bit more body fat than what they could do for the weight class, and you allow them to have a little bit more muscle mass, and they've added 50 kilos onto their deadlift, what do you think that's going to do for them in the ring? Fucking quite a lot.
It'll translate.
It's going to translate a lot more than some of these ridiculous exercises you see, and you see it especially in golf. See, in golf, man, you got these fucking stupid twisty jump on boxes, and I used to think that, yeah, that's what you do. Do you fuck? See, if you were to take Rory McIlroy's deadlift from 60 kilos to 200, obviously there's going to be a little bit of a trade-off at a certain point, right? But if you were able to 3x's deadlift, 4x's deadlift, what's that going to do for his drive? Quite a lot. Than just fucking jumping onto a box at a 90-degree angle. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it shows you as well, Auckland's probably back down to, or what needs to be looked at is the psychology aspect. So see when like a coach says, by the way, this circuit right now is for like punching power. Or it's, psychologically, that person thinks if they do loads of that, a 12-week training camp, they maybe go into that fight thinking,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's right, by the way, I'm just giving you like a kind of different perspective. They might go into that fight and be like, I've worked on this a lot, I'm going to have a quicker this or a quicker that. Do you know what I mean? And maybe in their head, that might give them the edge in that fight. You don't know.
Let's look at things logically, right? If you take a boxer, right? So you take a boxer who's 80 kilos and he can bench 60, right? You take a boxer who's 80 kilos who can bench 130. Who's going to punch your fucking head clean off a little bit more? Or who has the
think boxing's
potential?
different.
No, who has the
I think
potential?
boxing's different.
Who has the potential to punch your head clean off?
And then
more?
would a boxer be benching?
Yes.
I think,
Playing devil's advocate,
there's,
so
there's,
it's like,
there's
Yeah.
a lot. I get I know what you're saying.
no.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
But
There was advocate
There's a
Well,
there's a lot of
because you
intricacies
could
with it.
exactly. You could talk about slings. You could talk
I was,
about
yep.
like
You talk about yeah,
you could talk about slings, like the body slings. You could talk about
slings.
like
the
contralateral.
contralateral sling.
You could talk about all that. You could go into specifics why a bench wouldn't be optimal for a boxer,
See, you could,
right?
or you could
You
just,
could just get them
or you could just, or
You could just get them doing it.
No, or you could just shut up and fucking train and work hard. Do you know what I mean?
I think that we're both kind of right. There's kind of right. I think sport specific training, that there is a place for it. I don't think it should be the main kind of focus kind of thing. I think the kind of overarching theme or whatever should just be to how can I make this person as efficient and strong and shit as possible. And then the kind of sprinkles on top of that cake, if you like, is your sling work, is this work. Because, for example, if a golfer wants to get better at golf, play golf.
Yes.
This is
Hold on. Let's right. So the listeners won't know because I don't know what the fuck's sling work. What are you talking about? Sling.
So your body works in kind of slings and stuff. So like your lat and your glute
work together.
work together contralaterally, so across the body.
The abs work transverse, some work.
Right. I kind of get what you're saying. What implication does that have in this conversation?
So
Because you're-
sport specific. So see if you were a golfer, for example, when you bring your golf club back, that's going to load a certain sling. So
Rather
if
than
you,
just
so
one
for
muscle.
example, what you could do is like a kind of almost like kind of Romanian deadlift on the cable. So you're kind of engaging your lat and the glute.
Glute.
So that would then have a direct transfer over onto your golf swing. Or do you know what I mean?
Yes and no. So I completely understand that logic and that mindset and that focus when you look at your training, when you go to address your training. But then if you look at the purpose of those exercises are to say strengthen your lat or to strengthen your glute, right?
Together.
Right?
So this is the
Working
thing.
at the same.
Right. So working at the same time. Is a cable Romanian deadlift the most efficient exercise in order to do that? Or if you just make the whole body stronger? Obviously, you can do isolation exercises as well. This is what I'm saying. See all these fucking fancy exercises? I could take a high-level world-class athlete and make them a better, or give them the opportunity to make them a better overall world-class athlete with just 4 or 5 exercises.
Or would you just make them better at those exercises?
Well, yes. So by making them better at those exercises, does that then give them the opportunity to make them a better athlete?
But it won't necessarily make
In
them
cases it
Not
might,
exactly,
in
but it
cases it
gives
might
them the
hinder
opportunity
them.
to do that. Right?
Yeah,
It gives them the opportunity to do that. Whereas a cable row, in my opinion, or whatever, what did you say? Won't have as much of of that opportunity as what other exercises might do.
I think it would. I think it would
think it
depend on the athlete.
Aye, because there's some athletes who would actually be worse off for doing certain exercises than with others and stuff like that. Because
Give me an example.
so if you can imagine, you imagine a boxer who's always punching, and if you've got them doing loads of benching, is that unnecessary added work onto their chest and shoulder all the time in a very fixed plane? When it's in a boxing ring, is it a fixed plane? Is a punch a fixed plane? There's a lot more to it than just a up and down bench, right? Yeah, bench isn't even the best because a bench has movement in it, but a static machine then, for example, do you know what I mean? With that, because a boxer's like, well, I push forward, I need to do loads of that. Is that going to benefit them? Is it going to make them actually stiffer, tighter? Is it going to actually hinder the punch?
If it's programmed correctly,
I think
it'll make them better.
What I think the answer to it is you don't just have two camps. We do this or we do that.
Yes.
I think it needs to be a holistic approach between it all.
does.
Yes.
So you need to have a bit of everything because you as the individual may have I'm going to say discrepancy, but maybe a disconnect between like your lat and your glute at the back. Like, I know, for example, my left glute just does not switch on ever.
Yeah.
See, right.
So if you're never training,
by switch on, I mean like
red flag.
it's not a red
Switch on.
flag.
Red flag. Red
you know what I
alarm bell.
mean?
No, I don't, because see that term.
You know what I
Switching
mean?
glutes
though?
on. No, I don't, because see that term is overused. It's coined too much with no actual practicality of what the fuck it means. Stand up out that chair.
No, you
fucking
won't
glute
fall
will
over.
switch.
You won't fall over.
Like, see,
right?
people
It's a
say that shit all the time.
It's a phrase.
It is a phrase, but you're using the phrase.
I am using the phrase, right? And I identified that a second, but you know exactly what I mean. I can, in terms of engagement and stuff, I really struggle to get anything out of that, right? So
I disagree.
no, it still works. My leg doesn't fall over. I don't just crumble to the ground. But in terms of actual, can we use mind muscle connection? Are we allowed to use that?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I never really feel anything with that, and I've tried to cue it a million different ways, right? So I know for a fact there's a wee something in there that needs addressed.
Let's work on that together. We'll work on your glutes after this,
Thank you, baby.
right? Next question. We spent too long on
we
that.
did.
How are we doing time wise? 5 minutes.
Let's go.
Let's finish on a good one. I'm eating. Do you want to go? Am I overtraining or I'm eating barely any calories? Why am I losing weight?
Let's address the very first one.
The overtraining one.
No. Let's move on from
We
that.
move on.
Yeah.
You're not overtraining.
You're not overtraining.
Okay, next. That's it. That's all that deserves.
I'm eating barely any calories. Why am I losing weight?
You're lying. And that was the No Rep podcast, guys.
Episode 26.
No, well, here's the thing, right? So people say I'm barely eating any calories, I'm not losing weight, right? So are the exception to the rule as if they ate nothing, would they also not lose weight?
Yeah, exactly.
The answer to that is obviously no.
Do you know how many times I've said to my clients, right, don't eat anything for a day? And they're like, what? That's crazy talk. Because obviously,
Of course, it's crazy
there's
talk.
too much going in here.
Aye, exactly. And even people with overactive fucking triangular thyroids, whatever the fuck they want
Whose
to
glutes
say,
don't switch on.
right? Whose glutes don't switch on, right? Who work at a coffee shop and do CrossFit at the same time. Even if they still eat too much, I don't even want to say it, man. I don't even want to say it. Even if they eat too much, they're going to get. I don't even want to say those words because it should be fucking abundantly clear by now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
The thing is a term that I always use with my clients is BLT, so your kind of bites, licks, and tastes. There's going to be things that miss their way into MyFitnessPal, right? So the thing is, you either knowingly or unknowingly overeat. That is the long and short of it. So you either know about the fact that you're actually overeating, or you are unaware where the extra calories are coming from. So if, for example, you perceive yourself to be in a calorie deficit and this is where time comes in, over say like a 3-week period, on average your weight's not coming down, there are extra calories going into your body.
And it all goes back
from
to
somewhere.
consistency. I was talking to me about it today. Consistency with the gym, consistency with your stats, but consistency with the food. 1 week you might weigh everything, 1 week you might eyeball it.
Well,
Do you know what I mean? So then you lose the consistency aspect, even though you maybe are tracking, but I'm eating the same foods.
see
but maybe
people
1
that
week.
say oh, I just look at a slice of cake and I'll gain weight. And it's like, listen, bitch, right?
Do you look at it with your mouth?
I ate fucking 17 slices of Costco carrot cake in a span of 4 days. Who's right? And I did not.
And this is true. This is actually, yeah. He
I
did.
did not gain any weight. Why? Why could that possibly be? Because I was too fucking full to eat anything else. That's why. So when you tally it up with, I'd have my breakfast, I'd have my lunch, I'd have my dinner, and then I'd have a fucking slice or two of carrot cake instead of having. And see, even for my breakfast was actually less because I wasn't making my oats. Right? If you calculate it out, calorie wise, I was about the same. Right? And then when I stepped on the scale, I was actually a half kilo lighter. Right? Oh, you're so lucky that you can eat cake and still lose weight. I was a half keg down over the span of 4 days. But it's because I was eating like a fucking 5-year-old. That's why. So, listen, Karen, right? Fucking eat the cake, track it well, and you can still lose weight. Stop being an idiot.
And that was the No Rip Podcast, episode 26. I've been your host, Evan. We should round it up there.
Yeah.
End up there.
Yeah. With that, I'm going to say the thing, right? Before you go, right, you need to, I'm going to get this right this time. You need to like the YouTube video, subscribe, comment your favourite thing,
Subscribe on Spotify.
subscribe on Spotify,
Leave a review.
share this podcast with 10 of your friends on Instagram.
And John Moore.
If you
And
don't, you'll gain weight.
you'll gain weight from looking at cake.
Santa's not coming this year.
Santa's not coming either. Peace.
Peace.
Ciao.